In today's news, Captain Tevin Freeman of the Virgin Islands is first black captain to serve as deputy harbor pilot at the Tampa Bay Pilots Association. HLSCC Marine Studies partner with Marine Resources Foundation to provide scholarships to teachers. VI House of Assembly delegation visits UK Parliament. DPP Tiffany R. Scatliffe speaks on her office and its role. Dr. Carlyle Corbin presents self-governance assessment to the Premier of the Virgin Islands. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What do you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What do you really? Hey, this ain't like you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out that trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I hustle. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
Welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. A happy Wednesday to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining me. Beginning our newscast, the Maritime College Cultural Club said it was pleased to host its 35th annual Black History Month Scholarship Dinner as an in-person event on February 24th, 2022. The event is a celebration that recognizes the importance and significance of Black history and the achievements of Maritime College students who are presented scholarships by the Organization of Black Maritime Graduates during the dinner event. Now, this year's guest speaker featured Virgin Islander Captain Tevin A. Freeman, the first black captain to serve as deputy harbor pilot at the Tampa Bay Pilots Association. During his time at the Maritime College, Captain Freeman was active in the Regiment of Cadets as a member of the Cultural Club and the Propeller Club, and as a resident advisor. After receiving his degree in maritime transportation from the Maritime College, he went on to become an experienced mariner, working as a chief mate for Carlyle. He enjoys mentoring young cadets and unlicensed crew, and during his address at the event, encouraged students by saying, and I quote, "Stay motivated, stay humble, and most importantly, stay resilient, because you will need it when you go into the real world." Much congratulations to Tevin A. Freeman on his success. The HLSCC Community College's Center for Applied Marine Studies has partnered with the Marine Resources Development Foundation and its Marine Lab program to provide several scholarships in coastal and marine ecology to educators from the Virgin Islands and Eastern Caribbean. Based in Key Largo, Florida, MRDF's Marine Lab is a facility that supports access to hands-on coastal and marine ecology education for teachers and students. Marine Lab has hosted week-long teacher training workshops to educators from throughout the United States since the 1980s, exposing thousands of educators to unique marine ecology opportunities. Through this new partnership, MRDF will provide several scholarships to educators from the Virgin Islands and Eastern Caribbean, supporting their participation in a week-long workshop focused on coastal and marine ecology at Marine Lab's Key Largo facility. Founder and president of the Marine Resources Development Foundation, Ian Koblik, said, and I quote, "Getting teachers to excite students about our oceans may be our best chance to save our seas." Head of the Marine and Maritime Studies at HLSCC, Susan Zozolki, added, and I quote, "The workshop provides a unique opportunity to encourage dialogue between educators from Caribbean islands. Teachers can play an important role in supporting climate resilience initiatives in the region through student education and involvement." Dean of Workforce Training at HLSCC, Marva Wheatley Dawson, said that while the ocean is what divides the islands in the Caribbean, it is also part of what we all have in common. Mrs. Wheatley Dawson added that she was excited that the Center for Applied Marine Studies could play a pivotal role in utilizing educators from the Virgin Islands and Eastern Caribbean as a result of the new partnership. Gian Jeffers and Joseph Wells will be part of the cohort of Caribbean teachers attending the July workshop in Key Largo, where they will represent HLSCC's Mangrove Nursery. Ms. Jeffers, who works part-time for the Mangrove Nursery project, is also a science teacher at the Elmore Stout High School. She noted that she is looking forward to collaborating with other Caribbean educators and bringing back elements from the workshop that will enhance students' learning at home in the BVI. Now, Mr. Wells works full-time at HLSCC as the Department of Marine and Maritime Studies Workshop Manager. According to the head of Marine and Maritime Studies, Suzanne Tzolki, Mr. Wells has been responsible for implementing hands-on learning in the center's marine technology courses and is also an integral part of the Mangrove Nursery. Jeffers and Wells have led numerous community-based educational activities as part of the CAM's Mangrove Nursery project. We do wish these two Virgin Islanders the very best as they continue to train and strengthen their field of expertise to come back and assist us here in the BVI. Viewers, up next, DPP Tiffany R. Scatliffe speaks on her role, and of course, Dr. Corbin is here in the BVI presenting the Self-Governance Assessment Report to the government of the Virgin Islands. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
There's a reason you get up on a morning. A reason you pick yourself up, start the day. Maybe it's sheer grit. Maybe it's your ethics. Maybe it's because you know people like you are waiting for people just like you. We all have our reasons, and for Republic Bank, that reason is you. Every little thing, every big thing. It's all about making a difference in your life. Because after 182 years, if it's one thing we're sure about, is that the difference is you. We're here to help.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Hello?
Wait, you had a lunch again? You don't say you were sick? What happened to our wedding rehearsal?
No, babe. I'm actually watching the news right now. Take a listen.
Topping our newscast today, UFOs seen around Tortola Pier Park.
And District 3 residents outraged over no water supply. They simply cannot bathe. These and more stories when 284 News returns. All right, babe, just get some rest, take 2 Advil, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay, honey. I see you later. I love you.
It's clear to see that Coconut Lounge is a place to be, the coolest cocktail lounge in the British Virgin Islands. A lounge like no other, with welcoming, professional service, and a breathtaking ambiance. Not forgetting a diverse selection of wines, beers, and signature cocktails. Cozy, comfortable, contemporary. Coconut Lounge at Tortola Pier Park. Visit us today. Welcome back, and thank you so much for sticking with us. Director of Public Prosecutions Tiffany R. Scatliffe recently sat down with me to discuss and clarify various aspects of her office that are often misunderstood by the general public. Now, viewers, in this exclusive, she spoke about jury selection, bail applications, and much more. Take a look.
The DPP's office was established on June 15, 2007, when the 2007 constitutional order came into force. We are formed under Section 59 of the Constitution order that creates the post of the Director of Public Prosecutions and, by extension, the office.
What exactly came about in the creation of the office of the DPP?
Well, came about the creation. There was a need for an independent prosecutorial service in the Virgin Islands. Previously, it was under the remit of the Attorney General.
Okay.
And what became the DPP's office was the Criminal Division. And the unfortunate thing is many people do not understand the role and the purpose of a prosecution office. Even though we've been in existence for 15 years, we celebrate our 15th anniversary on June 15th of this year, still many people within the government service and the public at large do not have a clear understanding of what the prosecution office does. We have 3 main focuses. 1, we institute, take over, or discontinue criminal proceedings. The other thing we do is to make sure that there is justice for everyone in the criminal justice service. And of course, we're there to serve as independent advisor to the government on all criminal matters. Those are our main duties.
Understood. Now, how many DPPs have we had since the new dispensation? And are you the first local to hold this post?
I am the first local to hold the post. We have had, I am DPP number 5.
Okay.
We've had Mr. Terrence Williams, who was our first DPP. He was actually DPP prior to the commencement of the office. I believe he received his in 2006. Then we had Miss Elizabeth Hines, who was DPP for 2010 to 2012. And then Mr. Wayne Rajbansi was the DPP from 2012 to 2016. And then Miss Kim Hollis, Learned Queen's Counsel, was DPP from 2016 to 2019.
Understood. I'd like to discuss the independence of the office. To whom does the DPP report to?
Technically, the DPP does not, when it comes to our constitutional mandate, which is the prosecution of offenses, we do not answer to any other authority of power. Administratively, the DPP reports directly to His Excellency, the Governor, the same as with the Commissioner of Police. That is because when you're dealing with the criminal justice system, especially bearing in mind that this is the aspect of justice that where someone's freedom can be taken away as punishment, you have to make sure that any decision made is free from any form of external or personal bias.
DPP Scatliffe also spoke to whether or not her office could be influenced by any external source and the process in prosecuting matters.
No, no one can influence or otherwise, to use your term, or otherwise influence the office to prosecute anyone or to discontinue anything. And the same goes for the police as well. Police and prosecution do go hand in hand. It's the same independence that applies to both of those establishments. Because when it comes to investigating a crime, one must look at it impartially. You have to have an open mind in reviewing it to make sure all the elements of the purported offense have been met, and most importantly, you do have the correct offender.
Wonderful. Now, I want to talk about these steps. What are these steps that are considered by your office in essentially advising the police to lay charges or decide to take a matter to court? What type of deliberations are done before deciding such?
Well, in order to establish the deliberations and the steps, we need to explain the full progress of a criminal prosecution from investigation to when it goes to court. Someone goes to the police, they make a complaint. Then that complaint is investigated by the police. That means they gather statements, they get evidence, they take photographs, whatever that entails, investigation. And then the file is submitted to the DPP's office, and we will review the file. There is a two-pronged test that we use in establishing whether or not to commence criminal proceedings. Now, this test was created by the Crown Prosecution Service in the United Kingdom and is used by most DPP's office within the Commonwealth. That test is, the first one, is there sufficient evidence? It's not the same as when people hear on television, beyond a reasonable doubt. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. That's when we go to court. But in order to instigate those prosecutions, we have to make sure that there is sufficient evidence that would more than likely lead to a conviction. Once that's been established, then we have to look into whether it's in the public interest to commence that. So once we do that, then it's referred back to the police, and then a complaint is drafted, and then that complaint is laid before the magistrate's court. Sometimes the police may have to do additional work for the investigation to make sure that it does meet that evidential burden. And sometimes we will give opinions to the police, and not just the police, we also deal with files from the Department of Immigration, Her Majesty's Customs, the Financial Investigations Agency. Those are the main investigative agencies within the territory. And we deal with all of their files and making sure that there is sufficient evidence and it is in the public interest to proceed.
Now, on the topic of discontinuing matters, here's what DPP Scatliffe wants the public to be aware of.
The only time a matter is discontinued is if once, well, first of all, A matter is not prosecuted if it fails either one of those two tests. And sometimes there are a lot of different factors. You can't just say that it just meets this specific criteria.
Okay.
You have to look into different things. Also, when it comes to court, if we find out, for example, let's say the person has an alibi or they have a defense in law, then that will make us have cause to review the matter and then determine whether or not we will cease or discontinue the matter. And while we're on that, I would like to also raise, especially in certain matters, we've gotten the response in recent times where persons feel it's appropriate to make a complaint to the police and then about a week or two later sending in a letter to my office saying, we don't want to proceed anymore. That's not acceptable because significant resources are entered into by the police and the DPP's office in making sure that your matter gets to court. Those resources and that energy could be used for another matter. There is a procedure. If you feel you do not wish to continue, you have to take your matter to the police. Everyone has an investigative officer or a case officer. That person is responsible for your investigation. If you feel you do not wish to proceed, you have to give what is called a witness statement. The police refer to it as an MG11. And you have to state in that why you want to stop the prosecution. Were you forced? Did anyone entice you? Were you promised anything? And then they will submit that to the DPP's office and then we'll review it. Because not every matter, just because a complainant does not wish to proceed, does not mean it will be automatically stopped. We do have the public interest to serve. So for example, matters of domestic violence, serious violence, matters involving children, we normally, or even public offenses, meaning that breach of trust, theft of public funds, those type of matters, we would normally say, no, we're going to proceed. Most people seem to have these perceptions that if something arises, you can just simply discontinue. Another thing that we've noticed is that persons, especially in theft cases, like to say, oh, I paid back the money, and no, we don't want to go ahead. No, it does not matter. Just because you paid back monies in the theft does not mean that the offense no longer exists. Because at the time you took it, you did intend to permanently deprive the victim of those monies. So we try to make sure that everyone understands that, especially with domestic violence, because what most people do not understand, domestic violence is what you call an escalating offense. It starts with a shove. Then it goes to a chokehold, then it goes to a broken limb, then it goes to a wounding or a grievous bodily harm up until attempted murder or even murder. We have a responsibility to make sure that victims, especially in domestic violence matters, are safe.
Now, viewers, most importantly, the Director of Public Prosecution spoke to the process in bail applications.
Bail does not mean that someone is let go after being charged for an offense and brought before the court. Bail is to secure the person and make sure that they appear. When someone appears before the court in their first instance, the magistrate's court, their counsel will normally make an application for bail. Based on certain conditions, sometimes the Crown will object to bail. For example, if they're a flight risk, the nature of the offense, whether they can be a threat to intimidate witnesses or hinder the investigation and prosecution. Those are just a matter of things that we will bring up. But normally, bail is to make sure that that person returns to court. We normally do not object to bail unless it is murder or very serious offenses. Or in the case of, let's say you have a child involved as a victim, and that person may be friends with the family or have access to that child, we would also ask for bail to be withheld. Now, the DPP's office does not make the decision for bail. That is left to the court, whether it's the magistrate's court or the high court. But most people go to magistrate's court and let's say the magistrate in her own discretion decides that bail should not be awarded. Then persons can go to the high court to consider saying. In the case with murder, the magistrate cannot consider bail for that offense. That is something that the high court has to decide. And the high court judge who would determine the matter would think into spaces the length of time the person's been around, how likely or soon that the case will be heard, and amongst different factors, and whether there are conditions that he can put in place that can be readily enforced to make sure that this person doesn't reoffend, leave the country, interfere with witnesses, or intimidate any person in part of the process. And then they will make a decision. What they will then do is do what they call a surety. Sometimes persons will have to sign a surety. Sometimes they have to give a cash component. And then there are a number of conditions, including reporting to the police station several times a week, handing in your passport. Curfew, where they have what you call random doorstop checks, where the police can just come up on your door anytime during that curfew period, knock on it, and you knock on your door, and you have to respond within a certain level of time. And of course, the High Court has made it very clear, if you breach any of those conditions, your bail would be revoked and you would have to return to custody.
Viewers, if you miss this exclusive, the full interview can be viewed on all social media platforms as well as 284media.com. Up next, Dr. Carlyle Corbin presents the self-governance assessment to the Premier of the Virgin Islands, and the VI House of Assembly delegation visits the UK Parliament. This and so much more when 284 News returns.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this breaking CCT Live update.
Hello listeners, thank you for joining. I'm Ron Grant reporting for 284 News out of Tortola in the British Virgin Islands with this very special breaking news report. Since the start of 2022, customers have been taking advantage of the 1-month free trial for CCT Live TV and signing up for Fire Fiber Internet. Residents Kyra Powell, Massa Hickingbottom, Carly Cartel, and others have taken to social media to heap praise on CCT for the fiber internet and CCT Live TV. However, we have just been told that the 1-month free trial for CCT Live TV will finish at the end of March. Customers are asked and being advised to go to CCT today and take advantage of this deal before it goes away. Reporting for 284 News out of Tortola in the British Virgin Islands, I'm Ron Grant.
You value traditions. Today, you value music. You value education. Family. I love you. Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Live stream cable TV is here with CCT Live. Access over 80 channels that you can watch either at home or when you're on the go. And don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Rewind and watch in your own time. Come to CCT today and ask about our 1-month free trial offer. CCT Live. Bring it home.
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. International expert on governance Dr. Carlyle Corbin has made an official presentation of the Independent Self-Governance Assessment of the Virgin Islands yesterday, March 29th, 2022, to the Premier and the Permanent Secretary. Now, Permanent Secretary in the Premier's office, Dr. Carolyn O'Neill Morton, said the Independent Self-Governance Assessment of the Virgin Islands was commissioned by the government to provide the public with a reference document that places into historical context the constitutional advancement of the Virgin Islands, particularly as the territory prepares for constitutional review. P.S. O'Neill Morton, that is, noted, and I quote, "There are many questions that have been raised by the public about our constitutional development since the announcement was made in 2021 that a constitutional review would take place." The Permanent Secretary explained that the document will help to place self-governance in the Virgin Islands in its proper context and clarify many of those questions. She said, "It is hoped that by having access to the information contained in self-governance assessment, the public will be better able to engage in the constitutional review process." Now, Dr. Corbin discussed the report yesterday, March 29th. He also made appearances on Emoja on ZBVI, Honestly Speaking, and will be joining me tomorrow right here on 284 Media for a special report. He will also be making a presentation at the HLSCC Community College at 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 31st. He has paid courtesy calls to the Premier and the Permanent Secretary in the Premier's office, and also paid courtesy calls to all members of the House of Assembly. Now, Dr. Carlyle Corbin is an international advisor on governance and the designer of the Self-Governance Indicators diagnostic tool, which assesses self-governance sufficiency and preparedness on island of non-independent countries. He has conducted self-governance assessments covering Caribbean and Pacific countries, most recently in Curacao, French Polynesia, Norfolk Island, Guam, and now the Virgin Islands. He is the former Minister of State for External Affairs of the U.S. Virgin Islands government, and as a member of its former Political Status Commission and advisor to its 5th Constitutional Convention. He was the founding Secretary General of the Inter-Virgin Islands Conference and its successor, Inter-Virgin Islands Council. Dr. Corbin has served as international advisor to the Premier of Barbuda, the Prime Minister of Curacao, and the President of French Polynesia, respectively. He has been the UNDP Constitutional Advisor to the Anguilla Constitutional and Electoral Reform Committee, International Advisor to the USVI 5th Constitutional Convention, and the UNDP Expert to United Nations Special Missions to Bermuda and the Turks and Caicos Islands, respectively. Now, viewers, he has served as a visiting lecturer in the Global Affairs in the University of the Virgin Islands Institute for Future Global Leaders and a visiting lecturer in Dependency Governance Studies at the University of Guam, where he introduced the Dependency Governance academic curriculum. He lectures globally and writes extensively on dependency governance studies, and is the author of 3 books and numerous scholarly articles in the fields of diplomacy and external affairs. Of course, we here have been having the conversations as it pertains to self-governance for quite some time, and we are eager to hear what the assessment will be presented by Dr. Corbin. Now, on the invitation of the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Honorable Sir Lindsay Hole, a delegation from the House of Assembly here in the Virgin Islands visited the United Kingdom Parliament to engage in a very interactive capacity building via a fact-finding mission from March 21st to the 24th, 2022. The objective of the mission was to identify and document areas of the UK parliamentary policies and procedures that would help House of Assembly members to broaden the scope of their work, enable them to accomplish more, and better serve the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, the delegation headed by Speaker Willock included the Honorable Cherie B. De Castro, the Junior Minister for Tourism and at-large representative, as well as the Honorable Neville A. Smith, Deputy Speaker and Territorial at-large representative, the Honorable Marlon A. Penn, Leader of the Opposition and District 8 representative, the Honorable Julian A. Fraser, R.A., District 3 representative, the Honorable Melvin Mitch Turnbull, District 2 representative, and the Clerk of the House of Assembly, Miss Phyllis Evans. The delegation was moved by a strong desire, they say, and interest to find ways to strengthen the House of Assembly by reviewing the House of Commons operations, its laws and statuses, the role of the Speaker and Clerk, and the security of members. The delegation also had the opportunity, viewers, to gain insights, they say, into the roles and functions of backbenchers, leaders of the opposition, and junior ministers. In a review of the UK Parliamentary Library operations, the Hansard reports members' privileges and immunities also formed part of the exposure of the fact-finding mission. Open discussions were held with Speaker Hole, along with 5 current members of the UK Parliament from the 2 major political parties, clerks and senior public officers working for the House of Commons, an independent organization. While on the trip, the House of Assembly delegation also held a session with the UK Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. This meeting was hosted by Lord George Fawkes of Cumnock, a current member of the House of Lords, according to the Speaker of the House of Assembly. Viewers, that is all the time we have and all the content, but be sure to visit us on our social media platforms, and I will see you tomorrow for more local, regional, and international news. We're 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news, right here on 284 Media. Have a beautiful rest of the day. A happy Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top up or what?